February 5, 2016. A normal Friday night was coming to an end inside the headquarters of the Bangladesh bank. Most employees had already left, but somewhere inside the bank's digital network, a group of hackers was carrying out a plan that had been months in the making. They were not breaking through doors. They were not carrying weapons. They were not even inside the building. But they were about to steal one of the largest amounts of money ever taken in a cybercrime. Almost $1 billion. The target was not a regular bank. The Bangladesh Bank is the country's central bank. It manages Bangladesh's foreign currency reserves and controls billions of dollars in national assets. Some of that money was stored in an account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and that made it a perfect target. But stealing money from a central bank is not like stealing from a personal account. The hackers couldn't simply break in and take the money. They needed something much more difficult. They needed to understand how the bank worked. They needed to know how international transfers were approved, and they needed a way to make fake instructions look completely real. Investigators later discovered that this attack did not begin on that Friday night. It started months earlier. The hackers had quietly found a way into the bank's internal network, most likely through a malicious file sent by email. But getting inside was only the beginning. They didn't rush. They stayed hidden. They watched. They learned how the bank operated. They studied the systems, the employees, and the process used to move money around the world. Their goal was a system called SWIFT. Banks around the world use SWIFT to send payment instructions to each other. It does not physically move the money. Instead, it sends messages telling banks where money should go. If someone could control those messages, they could make an illegal transfer look like a legitimate request from the bank itself. The hackers waited for the perfect moment. They launched the attack during a weekend when many employees were away from their desks, because every extra hour mattered. If something went wrong, fewer people would be watching, and the hackers would have more time to move the money. Then, on that night, the plan finally began. Fake transfer requests started moving through the system. Requests that appeared to come directly from the Bangladesh bank. The destination? Accounts controlled by criminals. The amount? Hundreds of millions of dollars. But even the most carefully planned crime can be destroyed by one unexpected mistake. And in this case, that mistake would save millions of dollars. The attack was finally underway. Inside the bank's network, the hackers began sending transfer requests through SWIFT. At first glance, everything looked normal. The messages appeared to come from the Bangladesh bank. The format was correct. The information looked legitimate. There was only one problem. The people sending those requests were not bank employees. They were criminals sitting somewhere far away. The hackers created dozens of transfer orders. The total amount they tried to move was around $951 million. If every request had been approved, almost all of the money stored in the Bangladesh bank's account at the Federal Reserve would have disappeared. It would have been the largest cyber heist in history. But the plan was not perfect. Some of the requests immediately raised suspicion. Several transfers were going to organizations that had no clear connection to Bangladesh. Others involved unusual amounts of money. The Federal Reserve's security checks noticed something was wrong, and many of the transactions were stopped before the money could move. But 4 requests passed through. Together, they transferred around $81 million. The money was sent to bank accounts in the Philippines. For the hackers, the first part of the operation was a success. They had managed to steal millions from a central bank without ever stepping inside the building. But stealing the money was only half the job. The second challenge was much harder. How do you hide $81 million? Because the longer the money stayed in one place, the easier it would be for investigators to find it. At the same time, another transfer was supposed to send $20 million to Sri Lanka, but something unexpected happened. A simple spelling mistake stopped the payment. The hackers had written the word foundation incorrectly. Instead, it appeared as Fandation. That small mistake made the receiving bank suspicious. They contacted the organization involved, and the transfer was blocked. A few missing letters had stopped a $20 million theft, but the bigger damage had already happened. $81 million had escaped, and at that moment, nobody knew exactly where the money was going. When employees at the Bangladesh bank finally discovered the unauthorized transfers, they immediately contacted the Federal Reserve. But by then, the money had already moved. And now, the biggest question was, where did the stolen millions go? The answer would lead investigators somewhere unexpected, to the casinos of the Philippines. The stolen money had reached the Philippines. But for the hackers, the most difficult part of the operation had just begun. Stealing $81 million was one thing. Making it disappear was something completely different. The money was sent to several bank accounts in the Philippines. Soon after receiving the funds, the money started moving again. Millions of dollars were transferred between different accounts. But investigators soon discovered something unusual. The money was not simply being hidden inside bank accounts. A large part of it was being moved into casinos in Manila. Some casinos in the Philippines had fewer reporting requirements compared to traditional financial institutions. That made them attractive for criminals trying to hide the source of illegal money. The process was simple. The stolen money entered the casino system. It was exchanged for casino chips. And later, those chips could be converted back into cash. On paper, it looked less like a direct transfer from a stolen bank account, and that made tracking the money much harder. As investigators followed the trail, they discovered the involvement of several people in the Philippines. One of the key figures was a businessman named Kim Wong. He owned companies connected to casinos and currency exchange services. Investigators questioned him about the movement of the stolen funds. Wong denied being involved in planning the cyber attack, but he later admitted that money connected to the theft had passed through accounts and businesses linked to him. The situation inside Bangladesh became a national crisis. The central bank was under enormous pressure. People wanted answers. How could hackers enter one of the country's most important financial institutions? How could millions of dollars leave the country without being stopped? And who was responsible? The investigation now had two separate missions. First, follow the money and recover as much as possible. Second, find the people behind the cyber attack. Following the money led investigators to the Philippines. But following the digital evidence would take them somewhere else, to a group of hackers that had already appeared in several major cybercrime investigations. A group known as Lazarus. Finding the stolen money was only half of the investigation. The bigger question was still unanswered. Who was behind the attack? Who had the ability to break into a central bank, control its payment system, and move millions of dollars without being noticed? Investigators started looking at the digital evidence left behind. Cybersecurity companies analyzed the tools, and slowly they noticed something familiar. The attack looked similar to previous operations linked to a group known as Lazarus. Together, these details created a pattern that pointed investigators toward Lazarus. In 2018, the United States Department of Justice took a major step. They charged a North Korean programmer named Park Jin-hyuk. American officials accused him of being part of Lazarus and involved in several major cyber attacks, including the Bangladesh bank heist. Park Jin-hyuk was never arrested. He was believed to be in North Korea, a country where U.S. authorities had no practical way to bring him into custody. This is what made the case so unusual. Investigators believed they knew who was responsible. They had traced the attack. They had identified suspects. But identifying a criminal and putting that person in court are two completely different things. The Bangladesh bank heist was not the work of a single person sitting behind a computer. An operation this large required planning, preparation, and coordination. It was a carefully organized operation. But even after years of investigation, the people who actually carried out the cyber attack were never brought to trial. The case became a reminder of one of the biggest challenges in fighting cybercrime. A hacker can be thousands of miles away, behind a different legal system, and sometimes even after being identified still remain out of reach. But there was still one final question. The hackers had stolen $81 million. What happened to everything that disappeared? What happened to the missing millions? Out of the $81 million stolen, around $15 million was returned after investigations in the Philippines, but the majority of the stolen funds disappeared. The people who helped move the money through the Philippines faced legal consequences, but the hackers believed to be behind the digital attack were never arrested or put on trial. This attack proved that a modern bank robbery could happen silently, with no broken windows, no alarms, and no one standing inside the building. After the attack, banks around the world increased security measures. They became more careful about unusual payment requests. They improved monitoring systems. So what do you think? Was the Bangladesh bank heist the perfect cybercrime? Or was it a massive failure of the banking system? Share your opinion in the comments. And if you want to hear more real stories about the biggest financial crimes and cyber attacks in history, subscribe and join us for the next investigation.